The Undiscovered Country gave the original Star Trek crew the perfect send-off, but its production is full of secrets fans rarely hear. Did you know the film's traitor was supposed to be a beloved returning character until the dying creator of Star Trek personally forbade it? Or that a real-world coup nearly copied the film's plot while it was still being edited? 15 facts. Let's start with the wildest one. Number 15. The traitor was supposed to be Savick until Roddenberry forbade it. Here's the great what if buried in the film. Director Nicholas Meyer originally planned for the movie's shocking traitor, the Vulcan who betrays Spock and the Peace, to be Savick, the established character from The Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock. Meyer wanted to bring back Kirstie Alley, who originated the role, and have Spock's own protege be revealed as the villain. A genuinely devastating gut punch, since audiences already loved her. But Gene Roddenberry, near the end of his life, came out strongly against it, arguing Savick had become a beloved character fans wouldn't accept as a traitor. Roddenberry won. The role was rewritten as an entirely new character, Valoris, played by Kim Cattrall. Meyer was reportedly incensed, insisting he understood Savick better since he'd created her. Decades later, fans still debate it. Many believe Savick's betrayal would have been infinitely more shattering than a stranger's. Number 14. A real coup nearly copied the film's plot. Mid-edit Star Trek VI's plot is eerily prophetic in a way nobody planned. The story hinges on hardliners in a declining empire attempting a coup against their own moderate, peace-seeking leader, Chancellor Gorkon, who was deliberately modeled on Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Then, life imitated art with startling precision. In August 1991, while the film was still being edited, communist hardliners in the actual Soviet Union launched a real coup against the real Gorbachev, the very man Gorkon was based on, attempting to drag the country back to the Cold War. The parallel was uncanny. A film about reactionaries trying to sabotage peace and topple a reforming leader, mirrored in the headlines as it was being cut together. The Soviet Union then formally dissolved on December the 25th, 1991, just 19 days after the film's release. Star Trek VI didn't just allegorize history, it practically previewed it in real time. Number 13. Budget cuts forced them to reuse the next generation sets. Because Star Trek V, The Final Frontier had been a critical and commercial disappointment, Paramount slashed the budget for the sixth film, and the money troubles are hiding in plain sight on screen. To save costs, the production redressed existing sets from Star Trek, The Next Generation, which was filming on the same lot, and reused them as Enterprise interiors and other locations throughout the movie. The mighty flagship of Kirk's finale was, in places, quite literally Picard's leftovers with a new coat of paint. The film's whole aesthetic reflects this thrift. It's noticeably smaller in scale than some earlier entries, leaning on dialogue, intrigue, and character over spectacle. A naval murder mystery rather than a space epic. Nicholas Meyer, as with The Wrath of Khan, turned budgetary limitation into a strength, crafting a tense, talky thriller. But next time you watch, remember, some of those corridors belong to a different Enterprise entirely. Number 12. Christian Slater cameoed because his mom cast the movie. One of the film's odder blink-and-you'll-miss-it moments is a brief appearance by Christian Slater, a genuine 1990s movie star, as a communications officer aboard the Excelsior. The reason for the cameo is charmingly simple. Slater is a lifelong Star Trek fan, and it didn't hurt that his mother, Mary Jo Slater, was the film's casting director. She was, quite literally, in a position to make her son's Trek dream come true. It's a lovely piece of nepotism meets fandom. Slater reportedly took a scale-wage minimum payment just for the thrill of appearing in a Star Trek film, wearing the uniform and sharing a scene with Sulu. For a young actor at the height of his fame, it was pure love of the material. The moment is easy to miss, but it captures something true about the franchise's pull. Even bankable stars would work for scale just to say they'd served aboard a Starfleet vessel. Number 11. The film's title was the one Meyer wanted for The Wrath of Khan. Here's a beautiful piece of full-circle Trek history. The phrase, "the undiscovered country," comes from Hamlet's famous "to be or not to be" soliloquy, where it refers to death, the mysterious realm from which no traveler returns. And Nicholas Meyer had wanted to use that exact title nearly a decade earlier. It was his intended name for The Wrath of Khan, a film steeped in mortality and aging. Studio executives overruled him back then, and it became The Wrath of Khan instead. So when Meyer returned to direct the sixth film, he finally claimed the title he'd been denied, though its meaning shifted cleverly. In the movie, Chancellor Gorkon reinterprets the undiscovered country not as death, but as the future itself, the frightening, unknown peace ahead. It's a rare case of a filmmaker waiting 9 years and 2 films to finally use a title he loved and finding it fit even better the second time around. Number 10, Colonel Worf is Worf's ancestor, played by the same actor sharp-eyed Next Generation fans spotted a familiar face in an unexpected role. When Kirk and McCoy are put on trial by the Klingons, their defense attorney is a Klingon named Colonel Worf, played by Michael Dorn, the very actor who plays Lieutenant Worf in Star Trek: The Next Generation. The film establishes him as an ancestor of the TNG character, a clever bit of continuity linking the original Cruise era to the 24th Century series airing at the same time. It's a neat piece of franchise bridge building, the same performer playing his own character's grandfather across a century of story. Dorn relished the chance, and the role subtly reinforces the Worf family's long, honorable yet troubled relationship with the Federation. It's the kind of deep-cut Easter egg that rewards dedicated fans without confusing newcomers, and it exemplifies how the undiscovered country consciously served as a bridge between the two eras of Star Trek. Number 9, Christopher Plummer chose to make General Chang bald. General Chang, the eye-patch-wearing, Shakespeare-quoting Klingon warmonger, is one of Trek's greatest villains. And his iconic look came from the actor himself. Christopher Plummer was originally intended to have hair in the role, but he preferred his own bald appearance for the character, and so Chang became bald. It was Plummer's instinct that gave the general his severe, imposing, almost skull-like presence, that gleaming bald head above the bolted-on eye patch. Plummer brought serious theatrical pedigree to the part. He and William Shatner had known each other since their early days as young Shakespearean actors in Canada, which lends their on-screen rivalry a real-life edge. Plummer devoured the role, quoting Shakespeare with relish and giving Chang a cultured menace. That distinctive silhouette, bald head, riveted eye patch, was an actor-driven choice, proof that sometimes the most memorable design decisions come not from the makeup department, but from the performer looking in the mirror. Quick pause at the neutral zone. If this deep dive is earning it, hit like and subscribe because we chart a classic every week. Now, back to the Enterprise. Starting with the casting choice that made one actor deeply uncomfortable. Number 8, a civil rights icon was cast as a racist and hated it. One of the film's boldest and most uncomfortable casting choices involved Brock Peters. The revelation that Starfleet Admiral Cartwright is part of the xenophobic conspiracy, a high-ranking human bigot who'd rather sabotage peace than coexist with Klingons, was played by an actor with a profound personal connection to the material. Brock Peters was a lifelong, passionate advocate for civil rights and famously played one of cinema's most iconic victims of racism. Tom Robinson, the wrongly accused black man in the 1962 film To Kill a Mockingbird. Peters was deeply uncomfortable portraying a racist conspirator, given everything he stood for. He reportedly struggled with lines expressing prejudice, finding them painful to speak. Yet he performed the role without modification, a true professional serving the story. It's a poignant behind-the-scenes tension. A man who'd spent his life fighting bigotry asked to embody it, and doing so despite his discomfort, for the good of the film. Number 7. Nichelle Nichols refused a scene as an insult to Uhura. Not every cast member went along quietly, and Nichelle Nichols drew a line. In the film, there's a scene where the Enterprise, near the Klingon border, must fake its way past a listening post, and the crew frantically flips through printed Klingon to English dictionaries to cobble together responses, since the universal translator would be detected. Nichols, who played communications officer Uhura, strongly disliked this. She considered it a cheap gag that made no sense and undermined Uhura's entire competence as the ship's expert linguist. Her objection had real logic. Uhura is a communications officer who should obviously speak Klingon, or at least have it in the computer. Nichols reportedly refused to film it as written, arguing it insulted her character. The scene stayed in the movie with the books, but it remains a point of contention. It's a small window into how the veteran cast, in their final outing, fiercely protected characters they'd inhabited for 25 years. Number 6. The Klingon blood was pink. For a serious reason, one of the film's most distinctive and debated visual choices is the color of Klingon blood. Not red, but a vivid lavender pink splattered in zero gravity across the ceiling during Gorkon's assassination. This wasn't a whim. The filmmakers reportedly made Klingon blood pink specifically to secure a milder MPAA rating. Vivid red blood in such quantity risked pushing the violence toward an R, and the pink hue made the graphic assassination read as less realistically brutal, keeping the film accessible to its broad family audience. It's a fascinating example of how a rating requirement can reshape an alien species' biology. The choice was so striking it arguably became canon adjacent, influencing how Klingon physiology was depicted afterward. Some viewers found the lavender blood faintly ridiculous, given how much of it there is, but its origin is pure practical filmmaking, a color chosen not for science fiction reasons, but to satisfy the censors. Number 5. The morphing effects rode the same wave as Terminator 2. The Undiscovered Country arrived at a pivotal technological moment and seized it. The film features the shape-shifting alien Marcia, played by supermodel Iman, later the wife of David Bowie, who morphs between forms, including into a duplicate of Kirk, letting Shatner fight himself. This was achieved with then cutting-edge CGI morphing technology, the same revolutionary digital effect that was, that very year, wowing audiences in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and Michael Jackson's Black or White music video. It placed a Star Trek film right at the bleeding edge of visual effects history. Morphing was the hot new trick of 1991, and The Undiscovered Country used it for a genuine story purpose. A chameleon-like prisoner and a doppelganger fight, rather than mere spectacle. For a movie made on a slashed budget with redressed sets, splurging on the era's most fashionable effect was a savvy way to feel modern and expensive, riding the same digital wave that was transforming all of Hollywood. Number 4. It birthed a franchise catchphrase about Shakespeare. Here's a piece of dialogue that took on a life far beyond the film. General Chang, quoting Shakespeare relentlessly throughout the movie, declares that you haven't truly experienced Shakespeare until you have read him in the original Klingon. A gloriously absurd bit of Klingon cultural chauvinism. The line was so memorable it became the actual trope namer for the comedic concept of a culture arrogantly claiming a famous work as its own. The joke had unexpected real-world legs. Inspired partly by this notion, actual Klingon language enthusiasts and the Klingon Language Institute went on to genuinely translate Shakespeare's Hamlet and Much Ado About Nothing into Klingon, publishing them as real books. So, a throwaway villain's boast in a 1991 Star Trek film directly inspired real scholars to translate Shakespeare into a constructed alien language. One of the more delightful examples of fiction leaking into reality that this franchise has ever produced. Number 3. It quietly set up the entire next-generation political landscape. The Undiscovered Country did something remarkably generous for a final film. It laid the groundwork for the series that had already replaced it. The whole plot concerns the Federation and the Klingon Empire taking their first steps from decades of war toward a lasting peace. And that peace is precisely the political reality of Star Trek. The Next Generation, set roughly 75 years later, where Klingons like Worf serve in Starfleet as allies. So this film functions as the origin story for the entire Federation-Klingon alliance that TNG fans took for granted. It's the bridge that explains how sworn enemies became partners. Rather than simply ending the original crew's story, Meyer's film consciously reached forward across a century to connect the two eras, giving the original cast a send-off that also served the future of the franchise. Their last mission was, fittingly, to secure the peace their descendants would inherit and enjoy. Number 2. The film only exists because of a personal friendship. Star Trek VI came perilously close to never being made, or being made on a shoestring. After the failure of Star Trek V, Paramount had little appetite to lavish money on another film, and there was real risk the sixth movie would have a budget barely larger than the famously cheap Star Trek III. What saved it was a personal connection. The new head of Paramount was a friend of director Nicholas Meyer's, and that relationship helped the film secure the resources and green light it needed to be made properly. It's a reminder of how much of Hollywood runs on relationships. The perfect send-off for the original crew, the film that gave Kirk, Spock, and company a dignified farewell, might have been a threadbare afterthought, or non-existent, without one well-placed friendship. At the top of the studio, the 25th anniversary celebration of Star Trek that fans cherish owes its very existence to who Nicholas Meyer happened to know. Number 1, the perfect farewell that redeemed the whole franchise step back, and The Undiscovered Country stands as one of the great send-offs in film history. After the embarrassment of Star Trek V, the original crew desperately needed a dignified exit. And Nicholas Meyer delivered, crafting a smart, timely, emotionally resonant finale that sent Kirk and company off on a high note. It grossed nearly $97 million against a $30 million budget, a strong success, and it's consistently ranked among the best Star Trek films ever made. Its genius was tying the crew's farewell to a real historical moment, the end of the Cold War, giving the story genuine weight and relevance. The film ends with the crew literally sailing off into the stars, Kirk's final log entry, a graceful goodbye. For a franchise that had stumbled badly one film earlier, it was a remarkable act of redemption, proof that Star Trek could still be thoughtful, exciting, and moving. They gave the original Enterprise the ending it deserved. Those were 15 facts most fans have never heard about the Undiscovered Country. Which one got you? The Savick betrayal that never was, or the real coup that copied the plot? Beam your answer into the comments. If this earned it, hit like, subscribe, and send it to the friend who tears up at second star to the right and straight on till morning. Until next time, the Undiscovered Country awaits.